Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. This episode of the Mighty Books Podcast features Anisa Ashabi. Anisa grew up on an island near Seattle, creating characters, skits, and stories, mainly to entertain her older brother. Though now technically adults, they still regularly summon the voices of old favorites and degenerate into raunchy humor. Anisa studied journalism and communications at Washington State University and has worked in many fields, from local news to Capitol Hill, and even did a stint at the FBI. A former kickboxing champ, Anisa is usually found working out at the gym, protecting what's left of her mental health. She lives in the Pacific Northwest with her German Shepherd rescue, Anubis. Hello again, and welcome again to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. With me today, we have Anisa Ashabi. Anisa, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. We're here to talk about you and your book. What is the title of your book?
It's called Finding Chaz.
And can you tell us just a little bit about it without giving too much away?
Sure. So it's a young adult coming of age story set in the mid 2000s. I say young adult, but some of the biggest fans of it so far have been people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even beyond. So there's really no age limit to it. I started writing this book actually when I was near the age of the characters. They're in their freshman year of high school. I was in 8th grade, and then I forgot about it for about a decade. So I came back to it during the pandemic, and here we are with a book under our belt.
What inspired you to sit down and actually write a story?
Well, I always enjoyed writing when I was a kid. I was kind of that girl that always had like her mom's laptop and was just writing these crazy stories, mostly to make my brother laugh, like to entertain him. And then Finding Chaz started out as actually a homeschool project when I was in 8th grade. My mom was homeschooling me for language arts and history. And she was like, I can't even remember what the prompt was at this time, but I started writing Finding Chaz kind of like as an escape from the middle school hell, like feeling left out, bullying, whatever. And yeah, so it was like an escape. And then after about 200 pages, I forgot about it. And 8 years went by, and during the pandemic, my brother started kind of heckling me. He's like, that story was so good. Like, imagine if you could come back with fresh ideas and finish it. So we started bouncing some ideas around. I sat down and really reworked it, reimagined it, came back to it with some adult wisdom, infused some life lessons into it, obviously condensing a lot of the work that went in, but it's like kind of a perfect fusion of the lived experience of a 14-year-old and then some adult wisdom that I have now.
There's definitely some wisdom. If you can't see, there's air quotes for both of us. When you look back at your old work, were you appalled by the work you did before? Or were you like, wow, I actually had some good, writing technique here?
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of both. I mean, some of it I was just like dying because I'm like, oh my God, like it was just like, tangents and some kind of outlandish stuff, but the bones of it were so good. And I just felt like this is something that kids can still relate to. There's kind of like that nostalgia factor because it, was written in 2012 at that point. So that's why I opted to make it take place in the 2000s, kind of like an era gone by, but still those universally relatable themes are present.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, so you said it took you, you put it down for 8 years. Yeah. So when you finally picked it up, I'm with you on that boat. When you picked it back up, how long did it take you to get at least the first draft done?
I want to say close to between like 8 months and a year.
Okay. It's
a long book.
It is a long book. I mean, I have it digitally, and so you can of course make it larger and smaller. What's the print page count?
I think it's like 505 pages.
That's solid.
Which, yeah, it sounds, people hear that and they're like, oh, like, they might think that's too long or they're going to be bored, but it flows, like everything's in there for a reason.
Yeah, I can't imagine it getting boring. I've only read when you first start the book. I'm not going to go into detail on the characters too much, but you have the backstory on Chaz, and then you have the first chapter, which is talking about the main character with Roxy and her friend Hannah, right. And it goes through their little experiences, and It's funny. It's got some weird antics in there that they've experienced, and I'm like, I want to find out what happens more. I can't because time, but I would love to finish it. I don't see anyone getting bored with it unless you just all of a sudden, I don't know, lost your train of thought while writing it. But I can't imagine you did. So you said you had some good feedback. What's some feedback you got from some readers?
Yeah, I think readers are really relating to, it's an American high school coming of age story. So right there is kind of like a universally relatable, tough time in life. I feel like most people can understand the struggles of the main character and kind of like what she's facing as far as like handling her friends' issues, forgiveness. There's a redemption arc or two. And then I also wanted to include a diverse cast of characters who are like multidimensional. They're not just their identities. We have LGBT characters, we have characters from different races, but they're standalone characters. They stand on their own, and their identity isn't an overarching part of the plot. It's
Right.
like genuine diversity. So that's really
Nice.
what I was trying to go for.
Okay, cool. And that helps with your audience. If you have a wide audience, you're kind of aiming at, or I mean, you have a wide audience who's, around in your area and they're reading it, they have someone they can relate to maybe more so than someone else and, anchor themselves to the story a little bit more, which is cool. You said so. You said with your brother, you kind of bounce ideas off of. Was that he kind of a pivotal part of getting you to finish this?
Definitely. Like he got on me. He's like my biggest supporter.
Oh,
He
good.
like has been just such a fan of like my work and like my creative projects that I've done over the years. And he's super talented himself. So we kind of just like we'll get into this spiral where we like bounce ideas and we just, reminisce on the past or draw from like past experiences and kind of just like get into this creative headspace. And so like he's kind of just like a silent partner in everything. Like I couldn't do anything without him. So
Yeah. I know you dedicate it to him, and your energies working together. So I mean that's a really cool thing, and it does pay to bounce ideas off of people. I've done that with my brother as well, and other family members go, hey, I got this idea, it's trash, can you help me form it into something that's less than trash? And
yeah,
it really does wonders to collaborate. It really does. It's really fun. So you got your brother who thinks highly. How does the rest of your family think about it?
I have a really supportive family. I'm very lucky. Cousins, aunts, uncles. They've kind of given like positive feedback. Some of these people are in their 50s and 60s, and they're just amazed at how they related to this cast of 15-year-old, 16-year-old characters. That makes me feel good because it's not just limited to that younger audience. One of the people besides my brother who really encouraged me to keep writing was my third grade teacher, Ms. Schneider. And we kept in touch from high school until the publication of the book, but I didn't tell her that I was working on a writing project until it was like coming out. Because like over the years, she'd reach out and she'd be like, I know you're busy with life, yada, yada, but I hope you're still writing, because I don't want you to like forget about that talent, which was really sweet. But like when I wasn't writing, I felt guilty. I felt like, oh God, here's somebody who really believes in me. And I'm just sitting here, twiddling my thumbs, not working on anything. So she was one of the first people to receive the manuscript before it came out. And she was like over the moon. She was so excited. And she was like one of the first people to write a review as well. But it's just really been praised for, coming from a teacher, it's themes of, inclusivity and, handling tougher topics with humor and kind of like social commentary without telling the readers what to think, letting them draw their own conclusions, which I think is so important now more than ever.
Yeah.
And it's just a unique take on age-old themes.
That's really great. You get that kind of feedback and the support from not just family, but teachers, educators, friends as well. So when you were writing this, were you thinking of of the reader's mind, like, hey, I want to give the readers what they want, or are you just trying to? Is this all just you being creative and having fun with it? More fun for you, and then in the a nice consequence is that everyone else enjoys it too.
Yeah, I don't really know. That's an interesting question. Since I haven't written anything else before, like that was published, I couldn't really give the readers what they wanted. I just hope that this is what they wanted.
Right.
But I was trying to stay true to the vision that I had for these characters and create a satisfying ending that was still realistic. Like the ending, without saying too much, it has bittersweet elements. Like there's a good resolution. but it's not unrealistic in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. I wanted it to be satisfactory while still like not unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope people are satisfied by it. I hope they take something away from it and it, makes them think, or maybe opens them to a new perspective while still having like some laughs and being entertained along the way.
Sure, sure, sure. You got some pretty interesting characters just from the, 2 chapters I've read. So are they based off of anyone or people, a multitude of folks put together, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, I think any writer who says they're not drawing from, experiences or people that they know is full of it. Of
Uh-huh.
course, there's going to be some, some influences or from like an amalgamation of different people that I've known throughout the years. So yeah, definitely. But like the events are pure fiction.
Sure.
They're all imagined. The dynamic between Roxy and her brother Nick, I'm sure anybody can tell, is heavily influenced by the close relationship that I have with my brother. A lot of their conversations and their outlooks are pretty similar to the real life. But other than that, I wanted to kind of leave room for creative freedom and to really, not be attached to any existing people. One,
Right.
because they might read the book
Yeah.
and call me out, and two, just to, create something that's unique and powerful in its own right.
I love it. Yeah, when I was reading it, I've got siblings myself, and so the genuine, crap giving of for each other, it's just like you're giving each other crap, but you're doing it lovingly. It's a very odd, like oxymoronic thing to say,
Yes.
but if you have a sibling, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm giving you hell, but it's because it's because I want you to do better, or whatever. You give them a hard time because I think it was in this chapter, Nick was trying to, he's baking, he's doing some baked goods, and he's got an apron on, and she's giving him hell for I'm like, what are you doing? You're trying to, I don't know. It was just fun how they were talking. Just seems very genuine how a sibling would talk to each other.
Thank
It's
you.
You're welcome. That's how my siblings and I show love, is we, insult
They
each other
roast each
quite
other. Yeah.
quite often, as harsh as we can. And if it hurt you, I haven't heard that before. That's a good one. They really care about you.
Exactly.
I love it. Looking at future, so this is your first publication.
It is.
What is there do you have a sequel in mind for this? Do you have other, unique works, original works in the process, in the forge, if you will? What does that look like for your authorship?
Yeah, I've outlined a potential sequel to Finding Chaz. It's definitely
Nice.
still in like its infancy stages, but when I finished writing it, I just thought, oh my gosh, there's so much story left to be told. These guys they just finished their freshman year of high school. Like there's so much more that I want readers to experience alongside them. Like their journey can't be over here. So I have outlined a potential sequel. I'm not sure the future of it just yet because it's so early, but I want to delve more into, Roxy's self-identity. And, I wanted to kind of explore a romantic interest for her, but not in like a cheesy way, kind of like where there's some self-discovery for her. She thinks maybe this guy she's idolized for so long maybe isn't all that, realistic high school experiences, because what 16, 17-year-old boy is going to be perfect? None. And then as far as Chaz goes, just kind of him coming to terms with like who he is, and, finding himself a bit more and kind of becoming more comfortable with himself after the events of the first book. I mean,
Sure.
I can't give too much away without
No,
spoiling the plot.
no,
So
don't
I'll
do
leave it
that.
there.
Don't do that. Yeah. As you should. So I'm curious though. So it's based in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
I don't know what your age is, but I assume that's when you went through high school's early 2000s.
Well, I actually went to high school a bit later. So it's interesting how that kind of transpired. I graduated high school in 2017. So
Oh,
I was
okay.
not in the early 2000s space. But when I was a kid, I was really observing people of high school age. I had, cousins, I had family friends that I was like carefully watching. And, the book itself was written 2011, 2012, like the
Sure.
first draft. But I just wanted that simplicity of that era,
Mhm.
where social media wasn't omnipresent. Cell phones weren't, the be all and end all. Like those things existed, but people still communicated face to face,
Right.
and they still had those connections in, that way, because I didn't want like too much of what we have now. And
Yeah.
I wanted that nostalgia factor as well.
So I guess I had a second question with that too. Since you're no longer in high school, do
Mhm.
you have, people you talk to kind of asking, or are you about like what high school is now, or are you kind of talking to, parents, siblings, friends about what they experienced and trying to just kind of hold on to that, nugget of nostalgia, if you will, so you can progress the rest of the sequels?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a bit of everything. I can remember, myself exactly how I felt. It does not feel like very long ago at all. Since I was in high school, and then, online research, talking to friends and family, and just kind of trying to get back into the mind of a 15-year-old.
Oh, that's
Is a
frightening.
big part of the reason. Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't go back for anything,
Yeah,
but
no.
it's part of the research process. So,
Yes, yeah, it's good. It's part of the journey, but I don't think I'd ever want to go back to
oh, hell
being
no.
15 again. No. I'm awkward now, but way more awkward when I was 15. Um, okay, so let's see. Have you gotten some reviews already?
I have, yeah, on Amazon and Goodreads. The reviews are mostly positive, pretty overwhelmingly positive, minus
Great.
like one person who didn't like that there was like any swear words in it. And I'm like, okay, have you ever talked to teenagers? You know,
Oh
but
God.
that was basically it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I mean, how do you deal with, you have to obviously celebrate the good ones. You have to
yeah,
celebrate the good ones because they don't come terribly often, especially when you're brand new. Maybe if you had really good marketing and you're just really out there. But dealing with, how do you deal with the bad ones? You just kind of like, okay, well, that's your opinion, and
yeah. I mean,
respect it.
I think everybody's gonna get a little bit, irritated or
Yeah.
upset if they get bad reviews. I think that's just human nature. The ones that really frustrate me, not like frustrate, because I'm like, I'm happy that anybody's reading it. You know what I mean? I'm grateful that somebody's given their time to read my work and,
Oh yeah.
share their opinion. But still, like if you leave, for example, like a 3-star review or 3-star rating, and you don't put an explanation, just like a rating, I'm like,
Oh,
okay, like what does that mean? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it so? And like,
yeah.
why?
Yeah. And
So that
we're
kind of just like tickles my brain, I guess, when I'm trying to fall asleep.
yeah. There's just no evidence to support your rating there, reader. Come on, give me some information. Yeah, I get it. We're very, we need feedback. Authors need
Absolutely.
feedback. And it's one thing, it's like you can only change and you can't please everybody, but you just have to do what is right for you, what right for your story.
Mhm.
And as long as, I always think, as long as you're happy, you're having fun writing it, you're having fun reading it when you're, doing your production, that's all you need. It's really all you need in the end. It
That's so
helps to have
true.
other people like it too.
Yeah.
It helps. It definitely helps. So, reading your bio, I had a question for you. So it said that you did a stint at the FBI.
Yeah, that is
Okay, can you explain that? Because I'm curious.
true. Yeah, that usually gets people. So when I was in college, I applied for their honors internship, which is like a workforce trainee program. Basically, you are embedded in a squad within the FBI. I was at the Seattle office in 2019. And, you work alongside special agents and analysts. And, like if you look at my resume, it's like super vague because they don't let you get into like a lot of detail about it. But yeah,
Everything's
like
redacted on there. It's just like you just had your name and FBI.
the
Nothing
the
else. Just a big,
process
just
to get
blank
in
paper.
was like grueling. Like it's polygraph, a full background examination, because you're getting a top secret clearance, so it takes like
Oh
9
man.
months. I didn't actually expect to get it just because the process is crazy. It was like a summer, and then I was like on an intermittent schedule through the year, and I would just go in and kind of observe and like go through files and assist with casework and things like that. And ultimately, like you can work there like after college, but not as an agent. Like you kind of come in at the lowest level, which is like in the ops center. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to do that. So I decided to write books instead. But it was a very cool experience. Maybe I'll incorporate it into my work one
Heck
day.
yeah. That's so cool. That's pretty neat though. Yeah. I mean, just like, what did she like go to, take some special ops trips to Europe or Asia or
I
Africa or
wish.
something cool or South? I'm like, where'd you go? It's like, well, sort of. Well, that's still pretty neat though. And what did you go to school for?
Communications and journalism.
Okay, okay. So this is definitely right up your alley with when you're with writing books, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good like broad place to kind of launch from. I feel like, you get to kind of dip your toes into a few areas,
Oh
which is
yeah.
nice.
Oh, absolutely. So then with that note, what do you like doing when you're not writing books and doing interviews? What do you like doing on the side for
Well, it's
fun?
kind of cool. Right now, I have kind of put a little bit of a pause on writing novels, and I'm kind of exploring the world of screenwriting, which is something
Ooh.
that I've been wanting to do kind of my whole life, but had no idea where to start. And it's definitely a learning curve. Like it's nothing like writing novels. It's in a lot of ways easier and a lot of ways way harder. So I found a mentor who is like a screenwriter in the LA area, which is really exciting. And I've been
Ooh.
working with him. And I'm kind of just excited to see what happens. I'm not expecting necessarily something to happen, but
Right.
it's kind of just like in the early stages.
Yeah,
So
that what if bubble kind of
yeah,
pops above your head, like, well, what if this kind of blows up? That'd be kind of
yeah,
neat.
it's
Yeah,
like the
so
next chapter for me.
so
I
I'm
feel.
just curious. Are you hoping in the future to retrofit Finding Chaz to a screenplay?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm working on right now is because I'm familiar with the material. It already exists. It's like
Yeah.
a perfect starting point.
Oh yeah.
I have something to work with. I'm not like inventing something from scratch and trying to write it in a screenplay format because that would be like crazy ambitious for now. But I hope that once I've kind of reworked Finding Chaz into a screenplay format that I can, start coming up with original material like right directly into screenplay format.
That's
You.
very exciting. So yeah, if anything works out, let me know, and I'd love to chat with you some more about that. That'd be a nice, a very cool addition to what you're already doing. So
Thank you. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
with your cover, I was kind of interested. It looks like it was a painted. Was it a
Hmm.
painting? So
Yeah, it
where?
was on a canvas.
Okay, okay. How did you decide to do that versus a photograph or picking pictures off of iStock or however they a lot of different cover makers do it.
Yeah, I mean, the artist who did it is an extremely talented local artist that I know really well. And I talked to her and I was like, would you, because I just love the emotion in her paintings. Like they are beyond incredible. All of the paintings that I've seen her do are just like crazy good. But I wasn't sure exactly how that would translate to a book cover. I did a little bit of research. I'm like, can you use a painting like for a book
Yeah,
cover? And you can.
yeah,
So I asked her, like, is this something you would want to do? Like, no pressure, but like I was like fingers crossed because I didn't want anybody else to do it. And she hadn't read the book yet, but I tried to kind of give her some background about who Chaz is and like the emotion that I wanted to convey and like what my vision was for the cover. And she killed it. Like she did way better than I even like than the vision I even had in my head. And so yeah, like it is on a canvas and I took it and photocopied it and then I had somebody online do the formatting, like the title and the like basically all the other stuff.
yeah. The layout and everything like
Yeah,
that.
that's the word
I
I'm looking
like
for.
it. Yeah, the inner workings of it all. Well,
Mhm.
what's her name? You can give a shout out if you'd like to.
Tina Butts,
Tina Butts. All right, and she's based out of
Kids Up.
Kitsap. Awesome. You said this is a young adult.
Yeah.
Okay, I know. I'm reading this just the first chapter. There's definitely some, how do I put it, spicy content in it a little bit. Not necessarily spicy, some raunch in there, just a little
Yeah.
bit, just because of some of the antics going on. It's
Mhm.
nothing graphic. It's funny. But would that still
You.
be in the category of young adult?
Yeah, I usually tell people 13 to 14 and up. I've done some book signings and people are like, can my 10-year-old, 11-year-old read this? And I was like, I would say no, based on like my opinions. But at the
Right.
end of the day, you're the parent. Like you read it first, you decide. But yeah, I would say, I mean, there's some mature content, not mature like graphic, but just like something
No.
that a kid wouldn't be able to relate to. And
Yeah.
then there is some language in it. I don't think it's like over the top, but that's always a matter of opinion. So it's like if
Yes.
you're under the age of like 13, or like you have a kid under the age of 13, I would just recommend reading it and making that decision for yourself.
Yeah, I was kind of reading. I'm like, I don't know what young adult age is. I always think middle school when I think young
It's
adult. I'm
kind
like,
of vague.
yeah, but I'm like, really, to me, I guess young adult could be high school because
Yeah,
technically
I
you're
think they say middle grade is like seventh and eighth, or sixth through eighth, maybe even fifth. And then like young adult is like maybe eighth grade and up. But
okay. Okay, then young adult definitely is the appropriate spot because that's where I would let. I'm like, yeah, I'd let my kids read that, but at that point, probably 15. So
yeah.
that's good to kind of clarify because I didn't even know there's the middle grade versus young adult. I kind of just blend the two together.
Mhm.
That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, it's fun. I'm glad to see. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm in my early 30s, so it's not just a young adult book. It's fun. It's fun. So at the end of the day, what do you hope that people are going to get from reading your book?
Gosh, so much. I mean, I just hope it makes people think. Like I've had some of the more positive feedback I've received is like, this is a book that you think about for like a while, like after you finished reading it, like the characters stay with you. The plight of the characters is realistic. It's, like I've said before, like these universally relatable truths and themes. I do think there really is something for everybody. I hope that it may be, somebody who's going through the struggles that the characters are going through will maybe have like a fresh perspective or a fresh outlook on, their situation. And then like for parents and people who have already gone through the high school, there's going to be like that reflection and that nostalgia. And like, maybe they'll just be taken back to that place and reimagine it and think about it. And if nothing else, they'll have a fun read that they can, be entertained by.
The main character, she's a bit rebellious and not over the top, like vandalizing stuff or anything, but she knows her mind, or she thinks she knows her mind, as we all do when we're coming of age. But she thinks she knows her mind. She's very strong-willed, and she's got some attitude to her, which is just fun to read. It's like, yep, I've done that. Yep, I've done that too.
She's a bit of a firecracker, and then when you put that with Chaz, it kind of
she's got some good quibs, good fallback. Yeah, she's like a firecracker. That's a great way to put her, firecracker. So where can people get copies of your book, both digitally and in paperback or hardback, or however it comes?
So it's available pretty much through every major distributor, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, like wherever. And then there are some local bookstores in Kitsap that are carrying it. I know like Ballast in Bremerton, Eagle Harbor on Bainbridge. I believe there's a few others that have carried it, and then Barnes and Noble has it as well. I've done some book signings in the greater Seattle area, so they should be available at those Barnes and Nobles as far as like, in person locations. Right. But like online, awesome. Very easy, like pretty much everywhere that books are sold.
Well, this has been really fun, Anisa. Thank you so much for coming on here. Everybody go ahead and just pick up a copy, read it. I think they've got, is it on Kindle and everything too?
It's on Kindle Unlimited as well. So it's on Kindle. And then if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free. So awesome.
And then remember, if you guys are reading books and you want to leave a review, it really helps the authors out. Just get it out there, and just gives them feedback. So if you like it, give it all the stars and get all the interest and everything like that. If you don't like it, well, give it a very polite reason why you don't like it. We don't like rudeness. We want to learn. So, but Anisa, it's been really fun talking with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been awesome being on here and talking to you as well.
All right, guys, that's it for us today. I hope you have a fabulous day, and go pick up a copy of Finding Chaz. Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.